This happened about 3 months ago. I was driving for a small logistics company. I worked long hours, delivering packages all over the city. Most nights, I felt like I blended into the shadows. I've never really stopped thinking about it, though. It was a quiet night, and I had just finished my shift. I stepped outside, feeling the cool air cling to my skin as I walked to my truck. The streets were dimly lit. As I walked, I thought I saw something at the edge of the streetlight. Just a shadow. I figured it was my tired eyes playing tricks. I shook it off and drove home, the smell of stale bread from the bakery filling the truck as I pulled into my parking space. But then, the next night, when I finished work, I felt it again. A presence, maybe. When I turned onto the main street, I glanced in the rearview mirror. I thought I saw something slip behind a building. My heart raced, but I told myself not to worry. Just my imagination, I thought. After that, it kept happening. Every shift, that same feeling returned. I was sure of it. Shadows seemed to close in around me, lurking just outside my vision. I noted dark alleyways as I passed, wondering what those shadows were doing. Maybe I was paranoid. One night, I walked home. The streets were quieter than usual. My gut twisted as I turned a corner. There it was. I stopped dead in my tracks, my heart pounding loudly in my ears. The figure stood just outside the streetlight's glow, but I couldn't see a face, just a silhouette. I thought it was a trick of the light, but no, there was something standing there. I felt like it was watching me. I turned and hastened down the street, sweat creeping down my back. Every footstep echoed in the silence. The darkness felt heavy, and all I heard was my own breathing. I reached my apartment and fumbled with my keys, half expecting to feel a hand on my shoulder. But nothing. I locked the door and leaned against it, my heart still racing. It continued like this for days. Every time I left work, I felt that presence. I thought it must know my routine. Maybe I was going crazy. I told myself I needed sleep. But that one night, I stepped outside again. I can still picture it, the dim light, the shadow darting into the darkness. Then, it called my name. Did it? I'm not sure. I turned fast, but there was nothing behind me. Just empty street, just silence and my heart. I didn't see it again, but I can't escape that feeling. I can still feel those eyes on me sometimes, even now. I look over my shoulder constantly. Each time I hear a noise, my heart skips. It's been weeks, yet the dread never left. I tell myself I'm okay, but I can't shake it. What was it? I never really saw it. And I wonder if it's still out there, lurking, watching, waiting. And I can't help but feel it may come back one day. That's the scariest part of all. The next night, I decided to take a different route home. I thought maybe changing the scenery would ease my anxiety. The streets were still quiet, but the familiarity of my usual path weighed heavily on me. I took a left at the corner diner, past the park where kids usually played. Just a couple of extra blocks, I told myself. A small diversion might help. As I walked, the chill in the air clawed at me. The shadows seemed longer down this street, each doorway an invitation for something to hide. I forced myself to keep walking, but my nerves flared every time a car passed, headlights sweeping across the pavement. But it wasn't just me. A few streets over, I caught sight of a figure out of the corner of my eye. My heart skipped a beat. It was a silhouette, just like before. My legs felt heavy, but at that moment, I couldn't move. I was frozen, staring at the shape. It was as if we were locked in some unsettling dance of recognition. Then it slipped behind a tree, and I was able to breathe again. I turned quickly, wanting to head in the opposite direction, my heart pounding harder than before. But something compelled me to look back. This time, in the distance, the figure reappeared. I could see it more clearly, yet it was still indistinct. It stood still, just watching. Unease twisted in my stomach. I took off running. I didn't care about the distance anymore. I wanted to get home, to the safety of my apartment. My legs pumped furiously, the night air filling my lungs, but every step felt heavier than the last. I could almost hear the faint rustle behind me, like someone was right on my heels. When I finally reached my building, I flung the door open and slammed it shut behind me. I pressed my back against the door, gasping for air. I listened hard, expecting to hear footsteps or the sound of someone following me. But there was nothing but silence again, that choking silence. I locked the door and leaned against it, wrapping my arms around myself as I fought to calm my racing heart. Minutes passed. Then I heard a soft knock. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't dare move. Another knock, softer this time. I glanced through the peephole, but could only see the dim hallway light. I couldn't discern if anyone was out there. "Hello?" I called out. My voice trembled. Nothing. I waited, still a stone. After a few minutes, I convinced myself it must have been my imagination. I turned away from the door. But before I could settle my racing thoughts, I heard it again. A faint whisper, just audible enough for me to catch it. "Is it you?" I called out, but my voice cracked. I stepped toward the door, curiosity wanting to pull me closer. I wanted answers, but every instinct told me to stay back. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket, jolting me. I pulled it out, shaking hands, fumbling to unlock it. There was a new message from a number I didn't recognize. My heart raced again as I clicked it open. The message was short, filled with one chilling sentence: "I'm closer than you think." I felt my breath hitch, and dread washed over me. I hadn't seen that figure again, but maybe it was never far away. Then everything went dark. I stumbled as the lights flickered back on, my heart pounding loudly in the silence. A cold sweat dripped down my back. Was it all just in my head? I shook my head, trying to dispel the confusion. I had to focus. I was not alone. Someone had been watching me. I crept backward, inching away from the door. My phone buzzed again, vibrating against my palm. Panic clawed at my throat. Another message. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I forced myself to open it. "It's all coming together," the text read. "You should have stayed inside." I felt sick. The words twisted in my stomach, sparking a fresh wave of fear. "Who are you?" I mumbled into the stillness. I didn't expect an answer, but a small piece of me hoped there might be one. The hallway outside my door was dark now, the usual fluorescent lights flickering to a dull hum. I thought about the figure I had seen earlier. Had I really imagined it? Something in my gut told me I hadn't. I needed to know for certain. I glanced at the clock. It was only 9 p.m., but it felt much later. Against my better judgment, I moved toward the doorway. I peered through the peephole again. The corridor was empty, shadows playing tricks on the walls. I felt like I was waiting for something to happen. My resolve crumbled, and I opened the door slowly, inching it wider. The air felt heavy and stagnant, thick with the tension of unspoken words. I stepped out into the hallway. "Hello?" I called softly, scanning the space. My voice echoed, and I glanced around, nerves prickling my skin. Nothing. Then I heard it, a soft shuffle, as if someone was moving just out of sight. I turned quickly, heart racing again, but all I saw was the flickering lights at the end of the hall. A flicker, and then nothing. Caution urged me to go back inside, but fear pushed me forward. I took a couple of hesitant steps, the cold tiles chilling my feet. "If you're there, show yourself!" I shouted, unexpected confidence burning in my chest. Silence. That's when I saw it. A piece of paper crumpled on the floor, half hidden in the shadows near my neighbor's door. I bent down to pick it up, hands shaking as I unfolded it. My breath caught. It was a note, hastily written but unmistakable. "Stay home tonight. They're watching." The words sent a chill down my spine. I looked around, heart racing, the hallway feeling smaller and more suffocating. Had someone else noticed what I had? Before I could think, I heard footsteps echoing behind me, soft but deliberate. My instincts kicked in, propelling me back toward my apartment door. I just managed to slam it shut and lock it again when I caught a glimpse of movement through the peephole. A shadow blurred past. In that moment, I realized I was far from safe. Someone was out there, and they weren't just watching. I leaned against the door, breathless, fighting to calm my racing heart. My mind was a frenzied mess, wrestling with the images of the shadow and that chilling note. I looked at my phone again, the screen glaring back at me like an accusation. No new messages, but still I felt the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. My hands trembled as I swiped to my contacts, scrolling for my best friend, Emily. I hesitated. Would she think I was overreacting? I felt foolish, but the gnawing fear told me to reach out. I needed someone to know what was happening, just in case. I didn't want to face this alone. "Please pick up," I murmured, waiting for her voice. The phone rang, a sound that felt oddly loud in the oppressive quiet. On the fourth ring, I was about to hang up when she answered. "Hey, what's up?" "Emily, I think someone's been following me," I blurted, almost choking on my words. "What?" she asked, confusion spilling into her tone. "Are you serious?" As I recounted everything, the flickering lights, the shadow, the note, I could hear her frown through the receiver. "You need to call the police," she urged. "This isn't something to take lightly." She was right, but fear held my tongue. What would I tell them? I saw a shadow and found a note? I didn't want to sound crazy or paranoid. "Just stay in your apartment tonight," Emily insisted. "I'll be there in a few minutes. We'll figure it out together." I appreciated her worry, but I was left feeling vulnerable. I hung up, uncertainty clawing at me again. The flickering light overhead caught my eye, and I glanced at the door, half expecting to see the shadow return. I moved to my bedroom, the cramped space feeling like a sanctuary. I locked the door behind me, taking a deep breath to steady myself. In a moment of clarity, I grabbed my laptop and opened it. Maybe research could distract me from the fear. What could I find about the cryptic note or urban legends of stalkers? But as the screen glowed, I heard a soft thud from the living room. My heart sank. I quickly shut the laptop and stepped toward the sound. Each step, a battle against the prickling terror coursing through my veins. I felt completely exposed. I crept down the hallway, the floor creaking under my weight. I remembered almost nothing about those late-night walk-home routines. The sights, the sounds, everything seemed clouded now. Whatever confidence I'd had was fading fast, replaced by a primal urge to survive. Then I saw it. A window at the far end of the living room was slightly ajar. A chill breeze wafted in, stirring the curtains. It took a second to process. Had I left it open? I never did, an ironclad rule after last year's break-in. Just as I was about to close it, my phone buzzed again, vibrating on the table behind me. I hesitated, glancing back to see the screen light up with an incoming text. "Look outside." My blood ran cold. A new wave of fear rushed through me. Who was outside? Did they see me? Should I? Instinctively, I stepped toward the window, heart pounding. I didn't know what I'd see, but I felt compelled to find out. Gripping the edges of the curtain, I prepared for whatever awaited me on the other side. I slowly pulled back the curtain, peeking outside. The street was empty, the dim glow of the streetlights casting eerie shadows on the pavement. My heart raced, and I held my breath. Maybe it was just a prank. Maybe I was overreacting. Then my gaze caught something. A figure, vaguely obscured by the darkness, stood at the far end of the street. They were facing away from me, but shifted slightly, like they could sense my stare. I froze, my mind racing. Was this the person I'd felt following me? I couldn't tell. "Who are you?" I whispered, though the words felt futile against the silence. They didn't turn around, just stood there, like a statue, utterly still and impossibly calm.
Suddenly, a noise broke the stillness, a loud crash from somewhere in the building. It sounded like something heavy falling. I whipped around, panic setting in. Was someone inside? Focus, I scolded myself, pushing down the rising dread. I needed to know the figure was gone before I turned around. I took one last glance outside, but they had vanished. With a shuddering breath, I backed away from the window and felt for my phone. It was still there, buzzing quietly on the table, as if calling for my attention. I picked it up, flicking through Emily's texts, searching for reassurance. But my mind felt foggy, unable to focus. Just minutes ago, I'd felt safe in my routine, walking home with earbuds in and ignoring the world around me. Now, the walls of my apartment felt thin, like they might collapse under the weight of this new reality. I could hear a distant siren wailing, an echo of the fear amplifying in my chest. I made a quick decision. I had to call the police. There was no more room for doubt. I dialed, my
hands shaking as I pressed the buttons. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's voice pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. I think someone's been following me. Before I could finish, the power flickered and went out. Darkness engulfed me in an instant, and I stumbled back, nearly dropping my phone. The emergency light from the screen was my only source of illumination. I could hear my own breath, ragged and quick. Hello? Are you still there? The operator's voice crackled. I'm here. I think someone's in my apartment. I yelled, the words spilling out in a frantic rush. Ma'am, can you lock your doors and stay quiet? We're dispatching someone to your location. I swallowed hard. I already locked the doors. I'm in my room. But just as those words left my lips, the same soft thud from earlier echoed through the living room. I felt a chill wash over me. Someone was definitely inside. Before I could process the fear, I heard another sound, a scraping noise, like nails against wood, growing closer. It was unmistakable. Ma'am, can you tell me what you hear? The operator asked, and in that moment, the scraping stopped. That's when I saw it. A shadow slipped into view from the edge of the doorway. My heart dropped. The figure in the doorway was just a silhouette, unmoved by the chaos around us. I couldn't see any features, but the outline was unmistakably human. It was as if they were waiting, contemplating their next move. Stay on the line with me, the operator urged, their voice sharp with urgency. I could barely nod. I gripped my phone tighter, every muscle in my body urging me to flee, but my feet felt chained to the floor. The shadow shifted again, hovering at the edge of the threshold. It felt like a predator surveying its prey. How long had they been lurking? My mind raced with thoughts, each one more horrifying than the last. What did they want? Were they armed? I fought to modulate my voice. I see someone in my doorway. They won't come closer. Can you see if they have something? The operator asked, but I couldn't bring myself to look closely. My fear kept me glued to the spot. Suddenly, a loud bang erupted from the other end of the apartment, a cabinet door slamming shut. I jumped, adrenaline shooting through me. The shadow reacted, taking a step forward, edging into the faint glow of my phone screen. My heart thundered. Ma'am, does the person appear to be armed? The operator pressed. I didn't want to answer. My silence felt like a verdict, but I couldn't look again. A voice, low and gravelly, slid through the darkness. Let's play a game. I recoiled, the words chilling my spine like ice water. I'm calling the police, I shouted, somehow finding strength in my fear. Police aren't coming, the voice drawled, dripping with menace. Let's see how long you can hide. My breath quickened. The figure seemed to chuckle, a sound that sent tremors through me. I had to get out. I couldn't stay here another second. I turned to flee, heart pounding furiously. But then another sound made me halt. A soft whisper, like a sickly sweet caress. Your time is running out. The phone in my hand felt heavier as I backed away slowly, my eyes darting around for something to use as a weapon, anything.
The kitchen knives were too far, and my apartment felt like a maze. I couldn't even pace back to my bedroom without getting closer to that figure in the doorway. "Ma'am, is it leaving?" The operator's voice cracked through the tension. "I don't know. I think—" My voice faltered, eyes fixed on that impenetrable darkness. Then it stepped back into the shadows, disappearing completely. I was left in an oppressive silence, the only sounds coming from my jagged breaths and the distant wail of sirens much too far away. The weight of every heartbeat echoed in my ears. "Ma'am?" The operator's voice broke through my fog of terror. "What's happening now?" I don't see it anymore," I whispered, unable to shake the feeling that this was far from over. But even then, I began to hear something else. A soft tapping sound, like fingers lightly drumming against the wall. It was coming from behind me. Suddenly, a hand gripped my shoulder. I froze. The grip felt firm, but oddly cold, like a shadow made flesh. My breath hitched in my throat. I had to look. I had to see who was there. But the fear held me captive. "Ma'am, are you all right?" The operator's voice echoed from my phone. I managed a shaky breath, but said nothing. Every instinct in me screamed to run, yet I couldn't. My feet felt like concrete. The hand tightened its grip, and I could feel the chill seeping through my clothes. It was a feeling of almost malicious intent. I gathered enough courage to spin around, to face whatever terror was behind me. Nothing. The hand was gone, but I could still feel the lingering pressure on my shoulder, as if it had left an imprint on my skin. I stumbled back, my back hitting the wall, heart drumming wildly. How could it be that someone was just gone? My thoughts spiraled. Was it the game they spoke of? "Stay focused, ma'am," the operator urged. "You need to find a safe place. Move slowly." "Where?" I gasped. "There's nowhere safe." But then I remembered the window. I could escape. I darted toward my bedroom, my only escape route. The dull light from my phone flickered as I raced through the darkness. Every shadow loomed larger, twisting into sinister shapes. The tapping had stopped, but I could still sense eyes watching me. I reached my room and pulled the window open. The cool night air rushed in, mixing with the heat of my panic. I climbed onto the sill, ready to jump, when I heard it again. The low, gravelly voice drifted in from the hallway. Too late. A wave of dread crashed over me. I wasn't quick enough. The figure had moved, somehow closing the distance. I could hear it breathing, raspy and deliberate. "Call the police," I whispered into my phone, desperate. "Please." "Stay calm. I'm notifying them now. They should be on their way." The figure stepped back into the faint light, and I could finally see a glimmer of something. A knife? No, it looked more like a toy. A glint of metal twisted in an unusual shape. But as it turned, it reflected upon a sinister grin that spread across its unseen face. "Let's see your next move," it taunted. Suddenly, the lights flickered before going out completely. I was plunged into darkness. Panic surged in my chest. I could barely see my own hands. The only sounds were my erratic breathing and the continuing sound of that wicked chuckle. "Your time is running out," it echoed again, the voice now coming from all directions. I needed to act. I couldn't let this game continue. I quickly grabbed the nearest object, a heavy picture frame, and clutched it like a lifeline. As I turned toward the door, gasping for air, I realized something. It was not gone. It had been playing with me the whole time. And then a new sound pierced through the shadows. A loud crash from the living room, as if something had fallen or broken. I froze again. What was happening now? That's when I saw it.
A glimmering knife blade was sticking out from a shadow that was not supposed to be there. My mind raced as I stared at that knife blade. It didn't belong to me. It was as if it had sprouted from the darkness, a cruel reminder of the malevolence lurking somewhere just out of sight. I gripped the picture frame harder and took a cautious step forward, my feet barely making a sound on the wooden floor. "Ma'am, please stay on the line." The operator's voice cut through my thoughts, grounding me momentarily. "What do you see?" "A knife," I managed to stammer, uncertainty choking my voice. "It's in the living room. I don't understand." "Can you get to a door? Maybe out the window?" "No," I whispered, urgency clawing at me. "I can't leave. I need to see what it is first." With a deep breath, I crept toward the living room, desperate for answers. The darkness felt thick, suffocating. Each shadow twisted as if it had a life of its own. I could still hear that rasping breath, but it was softer now, almost subdued, as if anticipating my next move. When I reached the doorway, I hesitated. I could discern the outline of the blade, glinting dully along the edge of the coffee table. But where was the owner? I peered into the pitch black, my heart pounding loudly in my ears. That's when I heard it again, another crash, louder.
This time, something else had fallen. Before I could react, a sudden flash illuminated the room. The power flickered back to life for a split second, and I caught a glimpse of a figure hunched over, back toward me. I couldn't see its face, but the air was heavy with a stench of something rotten. "Run!" the operator yelled, but I was frozen again, paralyzed by fear. Then, just as quickly as the light had come, it disappeared, plunging me back into complete darkness. I cursed under my breath. I had to do something. My hands were clammy, and the picture frame felt slippery. The breathing intensified, becoming erratic. I could have sworn it was coming from right behind me now, closer than ever. A sense of urgency surged through me. I yanked the door open and sprinted into the living room, adrenaline pushing me forward. But before I could take a step, something snagged the back of my shirt. I screamed, spinning around to confront whatever was there. But again, the space behind me was empty. I was panting, trying to gather my wits, my heart pounding like a drum in my ears. "Are you there?" the operator pressed from the phone, panic creeping into his voice. "I'm okay," I breathed, though I knew I wasn't. "But I think it's playing with me. It knows I'm here. It's trying to trap me. Just hang tight. Help is almost there. You need to find a way to barricade yourself." My eyes darted around the living room. I grabbed the nearest chair, struggling to drag it over in the darkness. As I moved, the room shifted again. A whisper of movement brushed against my arm. I whirled around, the picture frame clattering to the floor, but there was nothing there. It was happening again, like before. It wanted me to panic. "Stop!" I yelled into the void, but my voice sounded small and fragile in the silence. In that moment, I caught a soft click, followed by the unmistakable voice from the doorway. "I'm coming in." The flood of fear consumed me. A new presence, a new threat, and I was utterly unprepared. I froze in place, my breath hitching as that voice hung in the air. It was calm, almost amused, and it sent chills down my spine. I slumped against the wall, the chair clattering to the floor beside me. I was trapped, and the sound of those footsteps growing closer made it obvious that I had little time left to figure out what to do. "Please," I whispered into the phone, "someone is trying to come in. I need help now." "Stay quiet, ma'am. Find something to defend yourself." The line went dead. The silence that followed felt thick, saturated with dread. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to will away my fear. I needed to focus. There were options. I could grab the knife, but who knew where it was? That voice was still too close, too eager. Instead, I felt around the room in the darkness, looking for anything that could help me hold my ground. A breathy laugh echoed through the living room,
slicing through the stillness like a knife to my chest. My heart raced again, a drumbeat of panic. I forced myself to think, searching in my mind for anything, any strength I could muster. I spotted the kitchen doorway just a few feet away. If I could make it there, I could grab something, a pot or a pan, anything that could give me an edge. With one steadying breath, I darted toward the kitchen, feeling the air shift. I wasn't alone. I kept my footsteps silent, slipping through the threshold before I felt that horrible weight behind me again. What if it was too late? What if whatever was out there already saw me? I reached for the knife block resting on the countertop. My fingers grazed the wood as I heard another crash, louder this time, a vase tumbling to the floor. I felt the heat of panic seep deeper. Think, I muttered under my breath. My fingers tightened around the handle of a chef's knife. It wasn't much comfort, but it was better than nothing. I turned slowly, back toward the living room, ready to confront whatever was creeping closer. That's when a shadow erupted from the corner, rushing toward me with terrifying speed. It was vague, more a distortion in the darkness than an actual figure, but it was coming. I lunged forward, brandishing the knife in front of me like a shield. "Get back!" I shouted, my voice trembling. There was a sickening laugh, but the figure didn't cease its advance. I was wrong. I had never seen it, but it had surely seen me, studied me, maybe. I was just a game to it now, and it showed no signs of stopping. Suddenly, in the corner of the kitchen, I spotted a glimmer of light. My heart raced. Where was it coming from? I darted toward it, but the laughter echoed louder. I hesitated for just a moment, confusion swirling in my mind, and then my instincts kicked in. I had to get there, whatever it was. I reached out instinctively, and that glimmer vanished in an instant, the light extinguished, plunging me back into darkness. That's when I saw it, I thought, dread coiling tight in my stomach. But right on the heels of that realization, I felt a cold breath against my neck. I jerked away, heart hammering as I swung a knife wildly toward where I thought the breath had come from. In the darkness, I could feel its presence, almost taunting me, like it was watching my every move with a sick fascination. The only sounds were those of my ragged breaths and the hollow laughter that echoed in the corners of the room. "Stay back!" I shouted, though my confidence wavered with each passing second. I didn't really know what I was dealing with, but panic was a thin film coating my thoughts, urging me to fight and run all at once. My phone buzzed again, the light flickering from within my grasp, illuminating the edges of the room. "Are you still with me?" The operator's voice crackled through the speaker. "You need to get out of there now. Help is on the way." "It's in my apartment," I gasped, my voice breaking with fear. "I think it's playing with me. It knows I'm here." The laughter turned into a guttural sound, reverberating in the silence and chilling me to my core. "You can't hide," it whispered, the voice slithering through the air, wrapping around me like a snake. I blinked back, the tears stinging my eyes. I needed to focus. The only way was forward. I darted for the back door of the kitchen, aware of the shadow lurking, but not fully comprehending its intentions. I grabbed the handle, yanking it open, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked, of course. "Find a window," the operator's voice urged again, panic now lacing his tone. "You need to escape." Clenching the knife, I turned away from the door. I couldn't be trapped anymore. I needed to get out, and fast. I dashed for the living room and remembered the window there. I lunged for the dining table, knocking it over, but the adrenaline rushing through me numbed the pain from scraping my knees. Cautiously, I approached the window. Gritting my teeth, I pulled up the latch. It clicked open, and I pushed it upward, the creaking of the old frame echoing through the quiet chaos of my apartment. I could hear it then, the footsteps retreating slightly, like it was preparing for its next move. "Please," I whispered, my throat burning. I climbed onto the windowsill, looking down at the concrete below, my mind racing with options. It didn't feel safe outside either, but I had to try. The figure could come out of the shadows at any moment. Clenching the knife tighter, I mustered the courage I had left and jumped. The fall felt eternal, the air rushing past me until I finally hit the ground, jolted by the impact. My ankle screamed in response, but I didn't stop to examine the pain. I rolled away, scrambling to my feet as I glanced back at the building. Part of me braced for the figure to appear in the window, ready to follow. But there was nothing, just silence. All I heard were the distant sirens approaching. I struggled to catch my breath, my heart racing, the fear still curling in my gut. I took off running, heart hammering, adrenaline pushing me forward as I cut through the darkened streets. The shadows seemed to shift and dance around me, and every flicker of movement sent my heart racing again. I didn't know if it was still watching, lurking behind me somewhere, but I refused to look back. By the time I reached the main road, I was panting and disoriented. I scanned the surroundings for any sign of help, a passing car, a bystander, but there was nothing but desolate streets and flickering lights. I sank down on the curb, trembling as the reality washed over me. I had escaped, but at what cost? The police arrived moments later, lights swirling red and blue, lights I hadn't realized I craved so fiercely. I pointed toward my building, gasping out everything that had happened. They rushed toward it, but I could only watch, my stomach twisting tightly. After what felt like an eternity, they returned, empty-handed. "We didn't find anyone," one officer said, their voice sympathetic but firm. "Are you sure you saw something?" I opened my mouth, ready to share my story, but doubt flooded in. Was I wrong? Had it all been a figment of my imagination? "I promise," I whispered, tears spilling over. It was real. The officer nodded, but their eyes looked away, a flicker of concern or disbelief that carved deeper into me. I moved to a different city after that. For weeks, every shadow felt heavy. Every flicker of movement sent a wave of panic through me. Sometimes I still think about that night, about the twisted game that had been played. I wonder if the shadow is still out there, waiting to pick up where it left off. But mostly, I try not to think about it. I try to forget the grip of fear that left my nights haunted. Because the unanswered questions linger, whispers in the dark. What was it? What game did it want me to play? And perhaps most unsettling of all, why did it let me leave?